Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this video we're going to talk about how we are going to read the data from a JSON file. Okay, we already had one video but which is before Java 8. So now what we are going to do, we're going to read the data from the JSON file using Java 8. There are not much difference but there are a few things which we need to know. Okay, so there are three things. The first thing we are going to read a JSON file and then fetch the data from the JSON file and then we are going to print the data. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a simple Maven project so we can download the jar from the Maven repository. I'm going to create a new project here. Let it be Maven project. So I'm going to create a simple Maven project and just name it com.read and you can name it a read JSON. Okay, then finish it. So once you created the project, you can see it here, and now I don't have any jars available here. So we need to add a jar file. So which is nothing but we are going to download the JSON simple jar file from the Maven repository, right? So how are you going to do that? Not here, this one. So just open the POM file, and for now the POM file will be empty. So let me add some dependency here. So add dependency. So I'm gonna use com.google.json hyphen simple. So and the artifact ID is going to be JSON hyphen simple, JSON hyphen simple, and the version I'm going to use 1.1. Okay, so it can be any versions up to you. Okay, let's save it. So still I don't have any jar files here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run the Maven dependency, update the Maven dependency. So I'll get the jar file here. Okay, so the Maven. Okay, so updated. So let's sort the issue. Missing artifact com dot. Okay, what is the problem here? Com dot Google. Supposed to be Google code, and then update it again. Yeah, now we are good to go. So now you can see the jar file, the Maven dependency JSON simple 1.1. Okay, for now the first thing we need a JSON sample JSON, right? So I have some content. Okay, let me create a JSON file here. Under the resource, create file. So I can call them as a person.json, and this is my content. So I have a person JSON which contains ID, first name, last name, and the website and the city. So it's going to be a very simple one. So let's create a class read JSON file. Okay, let's have a main method in it. So just make sure we are going to use all the Java 8 concepts. Okay, the first thing we have the JSON, right? So we need to have a DTO appropriate to add all those elements in the DTO. So converting our JSON into a Java DTO. So I'm going to create a new Java file here. So I can call them as employee finish, and it's going to contain these elements. So let's create a setter getter, setter getter, select all, generate. Let me override the string method so we can print the data. Okay, so we are done. So now the first thing which we need to do, read JSON file, right? So that is the first thing which we are going to do, right? So the first thing, read data. So let me create a method. So void read data. So the way how I'm going to do it, we know the person, right? So I want to return ID and the relevant to person detail or employee detail. So it has to be a map key and a value. So key is going to be my ID, value is going to be my employee DTO, right? Okay, let's do that. So what I'm going to do that, I need a map of integer and employee DTO. So I'm going to return the same return. For now, I'm going to return null. Import it. Okay. Okay, let's do that. So let's pass the file name. File is equal to new. Okay, before that, what we are going to do? So how we are going to pass the data, right? So we said we are going to follow the Java8, right? So I'm going to create a functional interface, which will read the data and return me the file, or not the data, return the file. So let me create a function here. So I'm going to create a function. So I'm going to pass the file name. That is the input, right? So string. And so what is the content we are expecting out of it? It's a file. So input is string, which is nothing but file name, and outcome is a file. So and then I'm using file reader. I mean the instance name is file reader. Just import the function. Function is a functional interface. And then this is the file name, and the Lambda expression comes into place. So let's return something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the class loader to return the file and the data. Okay, so return, come on, return. So I'm going to return a new file. So new file, how you're going to read the data? Using class loader. Get class dot get class loader. In the class loader, we're going to use the resource dot get resource, and we're going to pass the file name. So which will retrieve the file and give it back us, and file name dot get file. So that's all. So we have the file in place. So what is the error here? Lambda Expressions 1. Okay, let me change the JIRA to 1.8. So now we have the file is ready. So now I need to use the file and read the data. So that's what I'm going to do it here. File reader and here, and I'm going to use the function which we created already. So the file reader, and the method is apply. And what is the file name? So we know the file name, right? person.json. So now the first thing is done. We are going to extract the data with the help of JSON parser. So let's see the JSON parser and parser here, and create a new JSON parser. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So how we are going to return the data? I'm going to return the data as a form of map. So this is the form which I'm looking for. Okay, for now let me create a simple variable to return the data. Let me keep it as a null for now. Let's open the file, read the file, and extract the data from it. I'm going to use the try catch. Exception E, and I'm going to print the stack. Okay, so here I'm going to use a reader to read the data. File reader. Reader is equal to new file reader. And what is the file which you are going to pass? This is the file, so which I retrieved here. Okay, so now we have the file ready in place. Let's extract the data with the help of JSON. Okay, so let me create a JSON array. And create a variable name for that. So each and every item is going to be added into JSON array, and we'll extract the data from JSON array. So parser dot parse the data and the reader data, which is nothing but reader. Good. So now we need to cast the data also. So we are going to use the JSON array, right? Okay, much better now. So let's try to extract the data from the JSON array. So array can be converted into a stream. So now we are going to use Java8 to open the stream and get the data back. Right. So JArray dot open the stream and dot I'm going to collect the data as a map, right? Collect and using collector2 method, I'm gonna collect them as a map dot to map. So to map, you need to use a key and a value. So I have a JSON array which contains the data and key and the value available in the JSON array. I need to pass the ID as a key and the rest of the value is going to be my value. So instead of writing the code here, let's write, because the to map method which accept a function and the value is also function. So let me create another function which will return the ID, right? So let's create a function. Now it's going to accept a JSON object as an input, JSON object, and the outcome is going to be an integer. So now what I'm going to do, I have the data in place. So let's extract the data, or I can call them as ID. And how we are going to get the data from the JSON object? Basically, we are going to get the data from ID and dot get and the data. So what is the field I'm trying to read? ID. So now what is happening? So I have the JSON object, and with the help of JSON object, I'm retrieving the data. But we need to convert into JSON. I mean, the typecasting needs to be done in place. So JSON ID is here. So let me use JSON object here. Okay, so now we have JSON object, and JSON object is ID. So ID dot get of ID. So now what is happening? So why it is still saying another? So this entire object is going to be written as string, right? But I want to convert them into an integer, right? So what I can do, I can simply use the integer dot parseInt. So just cut the entire thing. So we can use entire the integer dot parseInt, integer dot parseInt, and paste the data here. So now we good to go. So let's provide the name here. So it is going to be written a ID, right? ID or ID data. So ID data which will return. So integer dot parseInt, and this is JSON object. This entire thing is a JSON object. From that I'm retrieving the data. So we are good to go. Okay. I have one more braces here. So the entire object is looking for a string, so it can convert into integer. Okay, so this, okay, I need to add the string here. So string dot parseInt, and then we are good to go. Just add one more parameter here. Nice. So now what will happen? This entire object will return a string. It's an object, and we are converting it to a string. And finally, the entire thing I'm converting as an integer dot parseInt, so I can get the integer as an outcome. So now we are good. The similar way we need to have a value also, right? So let's pass the ID data as an input here. So the key is passed. Now I need to manipulate the data for the value. Value is nothing but the employee. So I'm going to use the same JSON object to retrieve the information. So how we are going to do that? I'm going to use another function here. So this time it's going to be accept as a JSON object again, and the return type is going to be an employee, not the integer. Right? Then fetch employee, and then pass the JSON, and here we go the Lambda expression. So here we need to read the data and return it properly. So employee AMP is equal to new employee. So now what I'm going to do? AMP dot set first name. So how can I retrieve the first name? JSON dot get of first name. So that is how we can see the data in the, see, this is the first name, right? So first name, and then it is a string, right? So you need to pass it to string. Now we are good. So let's do for the rest of the fields. So the first name, and then last name, and then what is the next thing? We have a website and city. So website and city. So get last name and set website and set city. And then finally we have to return the data, return as a EMP object. So now we have the data, we have the function which will return the ID as a input, ID as a outcome, and there is another function which will return employee as a another outcome. So I pass the key here, so it has to be value. So value is nothing but fetch employee. So you can do the same thing here, but the code will be looks a little bit clumsy, so I keep it in a separate functions. So now few things done. We read the file and we fetch the data from the file and we put it in an employee, and then we collected data as a map of integer. So what is the next thing which we need to do? We need to print the data. So I need to pass the map of integer and the employee to a method or whatever it is, and I want to print it. So what we can do it in Java8. So we can go for consumer, which will accept a single input and it won't return anything. So I can use that, right? Okay, let's create a consumer here. So static consumer, so which will accept map of integer and employee, map of integer employee, and this is going to be display data. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write the Lambda expressions. So here we're gonna provide the implementation for that. So how we are going to print the data using amp dot for each method. Since it's a hash map, we are going to use the key and a value. So key comma value, key comma value. What is it? And we're gonna print the data. This one. I'm gonna print the key plus I'm gonna print employee, and here I'm gonna print the value. So now we have everything in place. I have a method to read the data, read the file and retrieve the information from the JSON file and then printing the data. Let's call each and everything and we'll see how the outcome comes. Read JSON file and is equal to new JSON file. So the first thing we'll call the read data method. Rj dot read data. So read data will return map of integer and employee, right? So we'll pass that here, data. So now we have data in place. Now we can pass the data and we can use the consumer to print the data. So my consumer is going to be display data dot apply, accept, and the data is going to be date. This is the data. So the data is fetched here and I'm passing the data to display using the consumer. Let me run this class file and see what is the outcome of it. So there is a null pointer exception, line number 28. So what is the issue here? So we are getting null pointer exception. Let's check the exception in line number 28 where the data is printing. So data printing area we are getting error. That means the error might be from the data where we are retrieving. So read data. Okay, this is the problem. So we need to return the data, right? Because I'm just returning as a return employee. So what is happening here? Just convert it. Okay, now we are good to go. Let's run it again. We should be able to see the data. So now we have a two data which contains employee ID is null. Why the ID becomes null here? So we can check that also. So the reason why we are getting ID as null, when we are converting the data into hash map, so the ID is the key. So when I'm populating the employee, I'm not passing ID. So if you want, you can set employee dot set ID. So what we can do, amp dot set ID. So you can use the same to retrieve the data. So instead of first name, I'm gonna use the ID here. So it is going to be integer, right? Integer. So now we should be able to get the ID. Let's run it again. Okay, so java.lang.string cannot be cast into a integer. So it's written as a string, and it is saying it's not able to convert into a integer. So let me do it in a different way. Integer ID is equal to integer dot person, which will accept a string. Let's copy the entire thing, Control X, and put it here. So now let's pass the ID here. So pretty good, right? Let's run it again. See, now we got all the data in a proper way. Okay, just try it out and let me know if you have any clarification. Thank you.